Nothing like the sound of thumping bass at dawn, unless it's the rhythmic creak of your own bed when you're supposed to be the only one home. My name is David Mitchell, and I'm 42 years old. I own a small tech consulting business that keeps food on the table and a roof over our heads in this overpriced Pacific Northwest suburb. The rain never stops here, which suits me fine. Rain means I can work in my garage without neighbors asking what I'm doing with that old Mustang. 5:30 in the morning, Tuesday, March 15th. I remember the date because it changed everything. I was under the hood of my '87 Mustang, my therapy project, cheaper than a shrink and more reliable than my marriage, apparently. The bass line from upstairs wasn't coming from any radio I recognized. Then I heard the laughter. My wife Jennifer's laughter, followed by a deeper voice I'd been hearing every morning for 3 months. The voice belonged to Tyler, her 22-year-old fitness coach. He arrived every morning at 7 sharp in his modified Honda Civic with the aftermarket exhaust that announced his presence to the entire neighborhood. I wiped my hands on a shop rag and listened. The voices moved from the kitchen to the living room, then toward the stairs. Jennifer was giggling like a teenager. At 38, she'd rediscovered fitness with the enthusiasm of a convert. New workout clothes, expensive supplements, and a sudden interest in wellness culture that included daily sessions with Tyler. The bedroom door closed with a soft click. I stood there in my garage, holding a wrench, listening to my marriage collapse in real time. The house went quiet for maybe 30 seconds. Then came the unmistakable sounds of 2 people who definitely weren't doing Pilates. Guess fitness coaching requires extra thrust these days. Here's what I didn't do. Storm upstairs, kick down the door, and create a scene worthy of daytime television. Here's what I did do. Pulled out my phone, walked to the driveway, and photographed Tyler's car from 3 angles. License plate, VIN number visible through the windshield, timestamp on every shot. I noted the time in my phone, 7:15 a.m. Arrival time, 7:03. I'd been tracking his visits for weeks without realizing why it bothered me. Now I knew. The sounds from upstairs continued. Rhythmic, enthusiastic, definitely not cardiovascular exercise unless they were both training for some very specific athletic event. I grabbed my keys and left through the garage. If Jennifer wondered where I went, she could ask Tyler. By noon, I was sitting across from Patricia Hoffman, the best divorce attorney in the county. Her office overlooked the downtown core, all glass and steel and expensive furniture that screamed competence. Patricia was 50-something, sharp as a blade, and had a reputation for leaving opposing counsel wondering what hit them. Washington is a no-fault state, she explained, reviewing the photos on my phone. But adultery can affect property division and custody arrangements. You mentioned a prenuptial agreement. I pulled out the folder I'd retrieved from our safety deposit box. Signed 20 years ago. Jennifer wanted to keep her maiden name and her independence. I wanted to protect the business I was building. Patricia reviewed the documents with the focused intensity of a surgeon. This is comprehensive. Did she have legal representation when she signed this? Her father's attorney reviewed it. Everything's documented. Mr. Mitchell, this prenup protects virtually all marital assets acquired through your business. The house, vehicles, investments, they're all shielded. She's entitled to spousal support for a maximum of 2 years, and only if the marriage lasted longer than 10 years. 20 years next month. Then she gets 2 years of support. After that, she's on her own. Patricia leaned back in her leather chair. The question is, how do you want to proceed? I want documentation, proof that stands up in court, and I want this done quietly until I'm ready. That's going to require patience and discipline. Can you handle living with this knowledge while we build a case? I thought about the sounds from my bedroom, Jennifer's new workout clothes, Tyler's smug face when he thought I wasn't watching. I've been handling it longer than you think. Patricia outlined the strategy. Document everything, separate finances legally and quietly, prepare custody arrangements for our 2 children. Our son Jake was 18 and graduating in 6 weeks. Our daughter Emma was 16 and lived on social media like most kids her age. The graduation timing is actually perfect, Patricia noted. Jake will be legally able to choose his living situation. Emma's old enough that courts take her preferences seriously. I left Patricia's office with a plan and a retainer agreement. The rain had stopped, but the clouds hung low and gray over the city. Perfect weather for what I had in mind. That afternoon, I installed a small security camera in the garage, aimed at the driveway. Nothing illegal about monitoring my own property. I also started working from home more frequently, claiming I needed to focus on a big project. Jennifer seemed pleased that I'd be around more often. Tyler and I are really making progress with my fitness goals, she mentioned over dinner that night. He's so dedicated to his clients. I'm sure he is, I replied, cutting my steak with more force than necessary. Very hands-on approach. Jake looked up from his phone. Dad, you okay? You seem tense. Just work stress, son. Nothing I can't handle. Emma, our 16-year-old social media expert, didn't look up from her phone. Mom, Tyler's Instagram story shows him at some girl's house this morning. Isn't that weird? Jennifer's fork paused halfway to her mouth. He has multiple clients, honey. He's building his business. Yeah, but he was shirtless in the story. Who works out shirtless at someone else's house? I almost choked on my water. Tyler was posting about his morning activities on social media. The kid was dumber than I thought. Emma, don't be so nosy about other people's business, Jennifer said quickly. I'm just saying it's weird, Mom. Like really weird. That night, I lay in bed next to my wife of nearly 20 years and listened to her breathe. She was probably dreaming about her fitness coach. I was planning her financial ruin. The next morning, Tyler arrived at 7:02. I was ready with my camera, positioned in the garage where I could see everything. He parked in his usual spot, grabbed a gym bag from his trunk, and walked to the front door like he owned the place. Jennifer let him in, wearing yoga pants and a sports bra. They exchanged a hug that lasted longer than professional courtesy required. Through my security camera's audio, I heard her say, David's working in the garage. We'll have to be quiet. They disappeared into the house. 20 minutes later, the bedroom sound started again. I documented everything. Arrival time, duration, departure time. Tyler left at 8:45, looking satisfied with his morning workout. Jennifer came downstairs in different clothes, hair slightly messed despite her attempt to fix it. How's the project going? She asked, finding me under the Mustang's hood. Making progress. Should have it running smooth soon. That's great, honey. I'm going to shower and head to the studio. Jennifer had recently become part owner of a Pilates studio downtown. Her investment in the business coincided with her newfound interest in fitness. Now I wondered if Tyler was connected to that investment too. After she left, I called my accountant. Richard, I need a complete audit of all joint accounts and credit cards. Something comprehensive, going back 6 months. Everything okay, David? Just being cautious. Business is good, but I want to make sure our personal finances are organized. The audit revealed interesting information. Jennifer had been making cash withdrawals, small amounts that wouldn't trigger attention individually, but added up to several $1,000s over 3 months. She'd also been using our joint credit card for purchases at expensive restaurants and hotels during times when I thought she was at the studio. I created a spreadsheet tracking Tyler's visits against Jennifer's spending patterns. The correlation was obvious once I laid it out visually. On days when Tyler stayed longer, Jennifer spent more money. On days when he didn't show up, her spending dropped to normal levels. My wife wasn't just having an affair, she was funding it with our joint assets. That evening, I suggested we review our finances together. With Jake starting college and Emma getting her driver's license, I want to make sure we're budgeting properly. Jennifer seemed nervous as I pulled out bank statements and credit card bills. I've been meaning to talk to you about some of the studio expenses. We've had some unexpected costs. What kind of costs? Equipment, marketing, staff training. You know how it is when you're building a business. I nodded sympathetically while making mental notes. Maybe I should meet with your business partner. I might have some insights that could help. That's not necessary. Lisa and I have everything under control. Lisa Chen was Jennifer's business partner and best friend since college. They'd opened the Pilates studio together using money from Jennifer's inheritance and a loan I'd co-signed. If Jennifer was hiding financial information from me, Lisa probably knew about it. The next morning brought a new development. Tyler arrived at his usual time, but he wasn't alone. A woman in her 20s got out of the passenger seat, kissed him goodbye, and walked to a car parked down the street. Tyler watched her leave, then headed to my front door as if nothing had happened. I photographed the entire exchange. Tyler was juggling multiple women, and my wife was just one of them. The kid had more nerve than brains, bringing his other girlfriend to my neighborhood while he was sleeping with my wife. Jennifer let him in with her usual enthusiasm. They went through their routine, kitchen conversation, living room stretching, bedroom activities. But this time, Tyler's phone kept buzzing. Through the security camera audio, I could hear him checking messages and typing responses. Who keeps texting you? Jennifer asked when they came back downstairs. Just client scheduling stuff. You know how it is. Jennifer didn't look convinced, but she didn't push the issue. Tyler left earlier than usual, claiming he had another appointment. Jennifer watched from the window as he drove away, and for the first time since this started, she looked worried. That afternoon, I did something that probably crossed an ethical line but felt completely justified. I followed Tyler. His next stop was an apartment complex across town. The same woman from that morning met him at the door wearing a robe. They disappeared inside for 2 hours. When Tyler emerged, he looked like he'd run a marathon. His third stop was a gym where he actually seemed to work with legitimate clients. 2 middle-aged women who paid him to help with their workout routines. Professional, appropriate, nothing suspicious. His final stop was a coffee shop where he met with a man in his 50s who looked like money. They discussed something that required a lot of hand gestures and note-taking. The older man handed Tyler an envelope before they shook hands and parted ways. I followed Tyler back to his apartment, a rundown complex that didn't match his expensive car and designer workout clothes. The kid was living beyond his means, which explained his entrepreneurial approach to fitness coaching. That evening, I shared my findings with Patricia Hoffman. "You've been busy," she said, reviewing my documentation. "This is more than enough to establish adultery. The financial irregularities add another layer of complexity." What's our next step? We file for divorce and request temporary orders for asset protection. Given the evidence of financial deception, we can argue for immediate separation of accounts. How long before Jennifer knows what's happening? Once we file, she'll be served within 48 hours. Are you prepared for her reaction? I thought about Tyler's morning visits, Jennifer's lies about studio expenses, and the sound of my marriage ending in real time. I've been preparing for weeks. There's something else to consider. Your son's graduation is in 3 weeks. Do you want to wait until after that? No, I want to hand her the papers at graduation, in front of everyone. Patricia raised an eyebrows. That's dramatic, and potentially problematic if she causes a scene. She won't cause a scene. Jennifer cares too much about appearances. She'll smile and pretend everything's fine until we get home. And then? Then she can call Tyler for emotional support. Except he won't answer, because 22-year-old fitness coaches don't stick around for messy divorces. Patricia smiled for the first time since I'd met her. "Mr. Mitchell, I think you understand the situation better than most of my clients." We spent the next hour finalizing strategy. Patricia would file the paperwork, arrange for service of process, and prepare temporary orders protecting our assets. I would continue documenting Tyler's visits and Jennifer's spending while maintaining normal appearances at home. "One more thing," Patricia said as I prepared to leave. "Are you sure about the public nature of this? Once you hand her those papers at graduation, there's no going back." "There's already no going back. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." The drive home took me through downtown, past Jennifer's Pilates studio. The lights were on, and I could see her through the window, leading a class of suburban women through their evening routine. She looked happy, confident, completely unaware that her world was about to collapse. I parked across the street and watched for a few minutes. Jennifer was good at what she did, no question about that. She'd built a successful business, maintained her friendships, and kept our family running smoothly for 20 years. She'd also been sleeping with a kid young enough to be our son while lying to my face about it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jake. "Dad, can you pick up my graduation announcements from the printer? Mom's stuck at the studio." "On my way," I replied. The print shop was closing when I arrived, but they had Jake's announcements ready. 500 copies, ivory cardstock with gold lettering. "Jacob Mitchell requests the honor of your presence at his graduation ceremony." Formal, traditional, exactly what Jennifer had wanted. I thought about the manila envelope that would be waiting for her at that ceremony. Her honor and presence requested for the end of our marriage. The next 2 weeks passed in a blur of documentation and preparation. Tyler maintained his schedule with military precision. Arrive at 7, leave by 9, 3 times per week. Jennifer maintained her lies with equal dedication. Studio meetings, equipment purchases, business development. I maintained my facade of ignorance while building an airtight case for divorce. Jake received his final grades and confirmed his college plans. Emma finished her sophomore year and started making summer plans with friends. Our family moved through its normal routines while I dismantled everything behind the scenes. Patricia filed the divorce papers on a Thursday morning. Jennifer would be served on Friday afternoon, right after Jake's graduation ceremony. The timing was perfect. Thursday night, Jennifer seemed restless. She kept checking her phone and looking out the window as if she expected someone who never arrived. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Tyler canceled tomorrow's session, said he had a family emergency." "That's too bad. Maybe he'll be back next week?" "Maybe." She didn't sound convinced. Friday morning arrived gray and drizzly, typical Pacific Northwest weather for late spring. Jake put on his cap and gown, Emma complained about her dress, and Jennifer fussed with everyone's appearance like she was directing a photo shoot. "This is such an important day," she said, adjusting Jake's tie for the 3rd time. I want everything to be perfect." "It will be perfect, Mom," Jake assured her. "Dad, you ready?" I patted the manila envelope in my jacket pocket. Ready as I'll ever be. The graduation ceremony was held in the school auditorium, packed with proud families and restless teenagers. Jake's class had 215 students, which meant 215 individual moments of celebration and achievement. I sat between Jennifer and Emma, watching our son prepare for the next chapter of his life while I prepared to end a chapter of mine. Jennifer held my hand during the opening speeches, squeezed it when Jake's name was called, and smiled for the photos afterward like we were the perfect American family. "I'm so proud of him," she whispered as Jake walked across the stage. "Me too," I replied, meaning it completely. After the ceremony, families gathered in the lobby for photos and congratulations. Jake found us in the crowd, diploma in hand, grinning like he'd conquered the world. "We did it," he announced, hugging Jennifer first, then me, then Emma. "You did it," I corrected. "We just watched and worried for 18 years. Jennifer laughed, the sound genuine and happy. For a moment, I almost felt guilty about what was coming next. Then I remembered Tyler's car in my driveway, and the feeling passed. "Jake, let's get some family photos," Jennifer suggested. "This is such a special day." We posed for pictures. The four of us together, Jake with each parent individually, Jake with Emma, various combinations that would document this moment forever. Jennifer's parents arrived and joined the photo session, followed by my parents, who'd driven up from Oregon for the occasion. "David, you look tense," my mother observed. "Everything all right?" "Just emotional about Jake growing up," I replied. Jennifer was arranging another group photo when I pulled the manila envelope from my jacket pocket. She turned toward me, expecting congratulations, or maybe a graduation gift for Jake. Instead, I handed her the envelope. "What's this?" she asked, still smiling. "Something you need to see." Jennifer's smile faltered as she felt the weight of the envelope. Legal documents have a distinctive feel, and she knew immediately that this wasn't a greeting card. She opened the envelope carefully, aware that both sets of grandparents and dozens of other families were watching. The divorce petition was on top, followed by the property settlement agreement and custody arrangement. Jennifer's face went white as she read the first page. "David, what is this?" "I think it's pretty clear what it is." She flipped through the pages, seeing the photographs of Tyler's car, the financial records, the timeline of his visits. Her hands started shaking. "We need to talk about this privately," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We've had 20 years to talk privately. I'm done talking." Jake stepped closer, sensing tension. "Dad, Mom, what's going on?" "Your mother received some paperwork she needs to review," I said calmly. "Nothing for you to worry about today." Jennifer's mother approached, concern evident on her face. "Jennifer, dear, you look pale. Are you feeling all right?" "I'm fine, Mom. Just processing some information." But she wasn't fine. Jennifer's carefully constructed world was collapsing in real time, in front of everyone who mattered to her. She looked around the crowded lobby as if searching for an escape route, or maybe hoping Tyler would appear to support her. He didn't appear. 22-year-old fitness coaches don't show up for family crises. "Where's Tyler today?" I asked conversationally. "I thought he might want to congratulate Jake on graduating." Jennifer's eyes widened. She realized I knew everything. "David, please, not here." "Here's perfect. Public places keep conversations civil." Emma looked confused. "Who's Tyler?" "Mom's fitness coach," Jake answered. "The guy with the loud car who comes by every morning." "Not anymore," I said. "I think his schedule just cleared up permanently." Jennifer clutched the divorce papers against her chest like armor. "I need to make some phone calls." "Good idea. Start with a lawyer. You're going to need one." She walked away quickly, phone already in her hand. I watched her go, feeling nothing but relief that the pretending was finally over. Jake grabbed my arm. "Dad, are you and Mom getting divorced?" "Yes, son, we are." "Because of the fitness coach?" "Among other things." Jake nodded slowly. "I kind of figured something was wrong. She's been acting weird for months." Emma looked like she might cry. "Are we going to have to choose sides?" "You don't have to choose anything, Emma. You're both old enough to understand that sometimes marriages end, and it's not anyone's fault except the adults involved." "But where will we live?" "That's up to you. The house is staying with me, so you're welcome there as long as you want. Your mother will figure out her own living situation." Jennifer returned from her phone calls looking defeated. Whatever conversations she'd had hadn't gone well. "We should go home and discuss this properly," she said. "There's nothing to discuss. The papers explain everything." "David, 20 years of marriage deserves better than this. 20 years of marriage deserved better than Tyler." The lobby was starting to empty as families headed to graduation parties and celebrations. Our family stood in an awkward circle, the weight of the moment settling over everyone. Jennifer's father approached, clearly sensing the tension. "Is everything all right here?" "Everything's fine, Dad," Jennifer said quickly. "Just some business matters to sort out." "Business matters don't usually make people look like they've seen a ghost." I handed him a copy of the divorce petition. "Jennifer's been having an affair. We're getting divorced. The papers explain the financial arrangements." Jennifer's father read quickly, his expression growing darker with each page. "Jennifer Marie, please tell me this isn't true." Jennifer couldn't meet his eyes. "Daddy, it's complicated." "Adultery isn't complicated. It's a choice." My mother-in-law started crying. My own parents looked uncomfortable but not surprised. They'd probably sensed something was wrong during recent family gatherings. "Jake, Emma, let's go home," I said. "Your grandparents can follow if they want to continue this conversation." Jake nodded and put his arm around Emma. "Come on, Em, let's get out of here." As we walked toward the parking lot, I heard Jennifer's mother asking her daughter how she could throw away 20 years of marriage for a boy young enough to be her son. Jennifer's response was too quiet to hear, but her mother's reaction wasn't. "Don't you dare blame David for this. He's been nothing but good to you." The drive home was quiet. Jake sat in the passenger seat, occasionally glancing at me like he wanted to ask questions but didn't know where to start. Emma stared out the window, processing everything that had just happened. "Dad," Jake finally said as we pulled into our driveway, "I'm staying with you, just so you know." "You don't have to decide anything today, son." "I already decided. Mom made her choice. I'm making mine." Emma was still quiet when we got inside. She went straight to her room and closed the door. Jake headed to his room to change out of his graduation clothes. I stood in the kitchen, listening to the house settle around us, waiting for Jennifer to come home. She arrived an hour later, alone. Her parents had apparently decided they needed time to process what they'd learned. Jennifer looked exhausted, defeated, older than her 38 years. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening." I never meant for this to happen. But it did happen. For months. Tyler he made me feel young again, attractive, like I mattered. You did matter. You mattered to me, to Jake, to Emma. Apparently that wasn't enough. Jennifer sat down at the kitchen table where we'd shared thousands of meals over 20 years. "What happens now?" "You find somewhere else to live. You figure out how to support yourself. You explain to our children why you chose a 22-year-old over their family." "David, please, can't we try counseling? Work through this?" "Work through what? Your lies? Your betrayal? The fact that you've been using our joint accounts to fund your affair?" Jennifer's face crumpled. You know about the money." "I know about everything. Tyler's other girlfriends, your fake studio expenses, the hotels, the restaurants. I know you've been living a double life while I've been working to support our family." "I'll pay it back?" "With what? Your Pilates instructor salary?" The reality of her situation was starting to sink in. Jennifer had been living as a married woman with access to our joint assets while playing single woman with Tyler. The divorce would end her access to my income and leave her with whatever she could earn on her own. "The prenup," she said quietly. "You remember it now?" I hoped you'd forgotten about it." "I don't forget important things. Unlike some people." Emma appeared in the kitchen doorway. "Mom, are you really getting divorced because of some guy?" Jennifer looked at our daughter with tears in her eyes. "Emma, sweetheart, it's complicated." "It's not complicated," Emma replied. "You cheated on Dad with some guy who's barely older than Jake. That's not complicated. That's just gross." "Emma." "What, Mom? You want me to pretend it's okay? You want me to act like you didn't just destroy our family for some Instagram fitness model?" I was surprised by Emma's reaction. She'd always been closer to Jennifer, shared interests in fashion and social media that I couldn't relate to. But apparently, even 16-year-olds have limits. "Where is Tyler, anyway?" Emma continued. "Shouldn't he be here supporting you through this difficult time?" Jennifer didn't answer, which was answer enough. "Let me guess," Emma said. "He's not answering your calls. Probably blocked your number and deleted your photos. Because that's what 22-year-old guys do when things get complicated." "Emma, that's enough," I said gently. "No, Dad, it's not enough. Mom needs to hear this. She threw away our family for some guy who doesn't even care about her. She's pathetic." Emma stormed back to her room, leaving Jennifer crying at the kitchen table. I felt sorry for my wife, despite everything. She'd made terrible choices and was about to face the consequences, but she was still the mother of my children and the woman I'd loved for 20 years. Jennifer, you need to find somewhere to stay tonight, and permanently. David, please, I have nowhere to go. You should have thought about that before you started sleeping with Tyler. Can I at least stay until I find an apartment? No. The papers include a restraining order. You need to be out of the house by tomorrow evening. Jennifer's eyes widened. A restraining order? David, I never threatened you or the kids. You threatened our financial security by misusing joint assets. You threatened our children's stability by conducting an affair in their home. The restraining order protects everyone. This is so cold, so calculated. You're right. It is calculated. I had 3 weeks to plan while you were lying to my face. Jennifer gathered some clothes and personal items, moving through the house like a ghost. 20 years of marriage reduced to whatever could fit in 2 suitcases and a gym bag. Jake came downstairs as she was loading her car. Mom, where are you going? I'm staying with Lisa for a while, until I figure things out. Lisa knows about Tyler? Jennifer nodded miserably. So everyone knew except Dad? Jake, please don't hate me. I don't hate you, Mom. I'm just disappointed. Really disappointed. Jennifer hugged Jake goodbye, then knocked on Emma's door. Our daughter didn't answer. Tell Emma I love her, Jennifer said to me. Tell her yourself when you see her next. When will that be? When she's ready. Jennifer drove away in her Honda, taillights disappearing into the rainy evening. I stood in the driveway for a few minutes, breathing deeply for what felt like the first time in months. The house felt different when I went back inside. Quieter, but also more peaceful. Jake was in the living room, staring at his graduation diploma. You okay, son? Yeah, I think so. It's weird, though. This morning we were a normal family. We haven't been a normal family for months. Now we're just honest about it. Dad, can I ask you something? Did you really not know about Mom and Tyler? I suspected something was wrong, but I didn't know for sure until I heard them together. That must have been awful. It was, but finding out was better than not knowing. Jake nodded thoughtfully. I'm proud of you for handling it the way you did. The whole thing with the papers at graduation was pretty epic. Epic wasn't the goal, finality was. Mission accomplished. Emma emerged from her room around 10 o'clock, eyes red from crying. She sat next to me on the couch without speaking. You okay, sweetheart? I'm mad at her. That's understandable. I'm also sad for her. She's going to be alone now. She made that choice. I know, but it's still sad. I put my arm around Emma and she leaned against my shoulder. What happens to us now? We figure it out as we go. Jake's heading to college in the fall. You've got 2 more years of high school. I've got a business to run and a house to maintain. We'll be fine. Will you start dating? The question caught me off guard. I haven't thought about it. You should, when you're ready. You deserve to be happy. Right now, I'm just focused on being honest. Happy can come later. We sat together in comfortable silence, listening to the rain against the windows. Outside, the neighborhood was quiet, families settling in for the night after graduation celebrations. Inside our house, a different kind of celebration was taking place. The celebration of truth finally spoken. My phone buzzed with a text message. Jennifer. David, I'm sorry for everything. I showed the message to Emma and Jake. Are you going to respond? Emma asked. What would I say? That you forgive her? Do I? Emma considered this. I think you do. Eventually. But not yet. Not yet, I agreed. I turned off my phone without responding to Jennifer's message. Tomorrow would bring lawyers and logistics, custody arrangements, and asset division. Tonight, I just wanted to sit with my children and appreciate the quiet that comes after a storm. Jake yawned and stretched. I'm going to bed. Big day tomorrow. What's tomorrow? First day of the rest of our lives, right? Right. After Jake went upstairs, Emma and I watched the late news together. The weather forecast promised more rain, which seemed appropriate. This was the Pacific Northwest, after all. Rain was what we did. Dad? Yeah? I'm staying with you too, just so you know. You don't have to choose sides, Emma. I'm not choosing sides. I'm choosing honesty. Okay then, we'll figure it out together. Emma kissed my forehead and headed to bed, leaving me alone in the living room with my thoughts. I looked around at the house Jennifer and I had bought 20 years ago, filled with furniture we'd chosen together and memories we'd made as a family. Tomorrow, it would just be my house, my furniture, my memories to keep or discard as I saw fit. I thought about Tyler, probably sleeping peacefully in his apartment, unaware that his fitness coaching career had just taken a dramatic turn. I thought about Jennifer, lying awake at Lisa's house, wondering how her life had changed so completely in a single day. Most of all, I thought about the sound of my bedroom door closing that morning 3 weeks ago, and how that sound had set everything in motion. One moment of truth that revealed months of lies. I turned off the lights and headed upstairs to bed. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight I would sleep peacefully for the first time in months. The truth, as they say, will set you free, even when it destroys everything else in the process. The phone started ringing at 6 a.m. the next morning. Jennifer's number appeared on the display, but I let it go to voicemail. She called 4 more times before I finally answered. "David, we need to talk. We talked yesterday. You received the papers. Everything you need to know is in there." I tried calling Tyler. He won't answer. Shocking. His phone goes straight to voicemail. I drove by his apartment, but his car's not there. I almost felt sorry for her. Almost. "Jennifer, what did you think was going to happen? That he'd stand by you through a messy divorce?" "I thought he cared about me." "He's 22. He cares about himself." Jennifer was quiet for a moment. "Lisa says I can stay here for a week, maybe 2, but then I need to find my own place. That's between you and Lisa. David, I don't have enough money for first and last month's rent. The studio barely breaks even. That's not my problem anymore. What about the kids? Don't they deserve stability?" "They have stability. Here, with me, in the house they grew up in. You're really going to make me homeless?" "You made yourself homeless when you started sleeping with Tyler." Jennifer hung up without saying goodbye. I deleted her voicemail messages without listening to them. Jake came downstairs around 8, looking surprisingly well-rested for someone whose family had imploded the day before. "Morning, Dad. Coffee ready?" "Just finished brewing. You seem pretty calm about everything." "I've been thinking about it all night. Honestly, I'm relieved." "Relieved?" "The tension in this house has been awful for months. I didn't know what was causing it, but I could feel it. Now I know, and it's over." Jake poured himself coffee and sat at the kitchen table. "Plus, I'm 18. I was going to college anyway. This doesn't really change my plans." "What about Emma?" "Emma's tougher than she looks. She'll be fine." As if summoned by our conversation, Emma appeared in the doorway wearing pajamas and a scowl. Mom called my phone 6 times. I finally had to block her number. "She's panicking," I said. "Give her some time to adjust." How much time does someone need to adjust to the consequences of their own actions? Emma had inherited my talent for cutting straight to the heart of things. Sometimes that was useful, sometimes it was brutal. She's still your mother." "Is she?" "Because mothers are supposed to protect their families, not destroy them for some guy with abs and a loud car." I couldn't argue with her logic, but I also didn't want my children to carry anger that would poison their own relationship someday. "Emma, what your mother did was wrong, but holding on to anger will hurt you more than it hurts her." "I'm not ready to let go of the anger yet." "That's fair. Just don't hold on to it forever." Emma poured herself orange juice and sat across from Jake. "So what's the plan? Are we selling the house? Moving somewhere cheaper?" "We're not selling anything. The house is paid for, the business is doing well, and you both have college funds that weren't affected by the divorce." "What about Mom's business? The studio?" "What about it? Didn't you co-sign the loan?" "I had co-signed the loan, which meant I was legally responsible if the business failed. But the loan documents included clauses that protected me in case of divorce or business dissolution. The loan is secured by the business assets. If Jennifer can't make the payments, they'll repossess the equipment and terminate the lease. And if that doesn't cover the full amount, then she's responsible for the difference." Emma whistled softly. "Mom's really in trouble, isn't she?" "She's in the trouble she created for herself." My phone rang again. This time it was Patricia Hoffman. "David, we have a problem. Jennifer's attorney filed an emergency motion to delay the asset separation." "On what grounds?" "Fraud and coercion. They're claiming you tricked her into signing the prenup and that the evidence was obtained illegally." "That's ridiculous. She had legal representation when she signed the prenup, and all the evidence was gathered from my own property or public records." "I know that, and you know that, but they are trying to buy time. We have a hearing on Tuesday." "What do I need to do?" "Bring all the original documents, the prenup, the loan agreements, everything. And David, prepare for this to get ugly." After hanging up, I explained the situation to Jake and Emma. "So Mom's trying to fight the divorce?" Jake asked. "She's trying to fight the financial terms. Can she win?" No, but she can make the process longer and more expensive. Emma shook her head. She really doesn't get it, does she? This isn't some negotiation where she can charm her way to a better deal. Your mother's scared. People do desperate things when they're scared. Dad, you're being too nice about this, Jake said. She cheated on you, lied to you, and spent your money on her affair. Now she's trying to use the legal system to avoid the consequences. What would you have me do? Fight back. Hard. I looked at my son, barely 18 years old, already thinking like a strategic adult. Jake, I am fighting back, but I'm doing it legally and ethically. Maybe it's time to stop being ethical. No, that's what separates me from your mother. That afternoon, I drove to Jennifer's Pilates studio. I wanted to see how she was handling the situation and whether she was telling her clients the truth about our divorce. The studio was busy, filled with women in expensive workout clothes doing their Saturday afternoon Pilates routines. Jennifer was leading a class, her voice calm and professional as she guided her students through various exercises. She looked up when I entered and nearly lost her balance on the reformer machine. David, what are you doing here? We need to discuss the emergency motion your lawyer filed. Not here, not now. Then when? You won't answer your phone, and according to the restraining order, I can't come to Lisa's house. Jennifer's students were watching our exchange with obvious interest. Suburban women love drama, especially when it involves someone they know personally. Ladies, take 5, Jennifer announced. Practice your breathing exercises. She led me to the small office in the back of the studio, closing the door behind us. You can't just show up at my workplace. This is a public business. I can show up wherever I want. What do you want, David? I want you to withdraw the emergency motion and accept the divorce terms. I can't do that. I'll have nothing. You'll have what you earned. That's how divorce works. I helped build your business. I supported you for 20 years. And the prenup accounts for that. You get spousal support for 2 years. 2 years isn't enough time to rebuild my life. Then you should have thought about that before you started tearing it down. Jennifer sat behind her desk, looking smaller and more vulnerable than I'd seen her in years. For a moment, I remembered why I'd fallen in love with her in the first place. David, I made a mistake, a terrible mistake. But does that really mean I deserve to lose everything? You didn't lose everything because of a mistake. You lost everything because of months of deliberate choices. Can we try counseling? Work through this? Work through what? Your relationship with Tyler? Because that's over. He won't even return your calls. Jennifer's face crumpled. I know, I was so stupid. Yes, you were. But being stupid doesn't entitle you to half my assets. I'm not asking for half. I'm asking for enough to survive. The spousal support will cover your basic needs. The rest is up to you. David, please, I'm begging you. You're begging the wrong person. You should be begging Jake and Emma to forgive you. I left Jennifer crying in her office and walked back through the studio. Her students pretended to be focused on their exercises, but I could feel their eyes following me. By Monday morning, everyone in their social circle would know that Jennifer's marriage had ended badly. That evening, Emma asked if she could have some friends over. Of course. Who's coming? Just Sarah and Madison. They want to know what happened at graduation. What are you going to tell them? The truth. Mom cheated, you divorced her, and now we're living with you. Emma, you don't have to share our family business with your friends. Dad, everyone already knows. Madison's mom was at graduation. She saw the whole thing. I'd forgotten how quickly news travels in suburban communities. By now, half the neighborhood probably knew about Jennifer's affair and our divorce. Just remember that your friends' parents might gossip about this. Be careful what you say. I'm not embarrassed, Dad. Mom should be embarrassed, but I'm not. Sarah and Madison arrived around 7, both trying to act casual while clearly desperate to hear every detail. They were good kids, and I'd known their families for years, but teenage girls are natural investigators. I retreated to my garage to work on the Mustang while they talked. Through the open door, I could hear fragments of their conversation. Your mom was cheating with a 22-year-old? Gross, right? He's like barely older than Jake. Where is she now? Staying with Lisa. Dad kicked her out. Are your parents going to share custody? Jake and I are both staying with Dad. Mom can visit when we want to see her. Do you want to see her? Not really, not yet. I felt proud of Emma for handling the situation with such maturity. She was protecting our family's privacy while still being honest with her friends. Around 9, Sarah and Madison's parents came to pick them up. Both mothers made a point of speaking with me before leaving. David, I just want you to know that if you need anything, please don't hesitate to ask, said Sarah's mom. Thank you, Carol. We're managing fine. How are the kids handling everything? Better than expected. They're resilient. Madison's mother was more direct. David, I have to say, I'm shocked by Jennifer's behavior. I never would have expected this from her. People surprise you sometimes. Is it true she was having an affair with that young trainer? I didn't answer directly, but my expression must have been confirmation enough. Well, I think you're handling this with remarkable dignity. A lot of men would have made a much bigger scene. Making scenes doesn't solve problems. After they left, Emma came to find me in the garage. Thanks for giving us space to talk. What did you tell them? Just the basics. They were pretty shocked. I imagine so. Dad, Sarah's mom asked if you're going to start dating. What did you tell her? That you're focused on us right now, but she said to let her know when you're ready because she has some friends who might be interested. Emma, I'm not ready to think about dating. I know, but when you are, it's nice to know people want to help. We worked on the Mustang together for a while, Emma handing me tools and asking questions about the engine. She'd never shown much interest in cars before, but maybe she was looking for ways to connect with me during this difficult time. Dad, can I ask you something personal? Shoot. Are you sad about the divorce? I thought about her question while adjusting the carburetor. I'm sad that our family is broken. I'm sad that you and Jake have to deal with this, but I'm not sad about ending the marriage. Because of the cheating? Because of the lying. The cheating was bad, but the lying made it impossible to fix. Do you think Mom really loved Tyler? I think your mother was having a midlife crisis and Tyler made her feel young and exciting. But that's not love. No, that's not love. Emma was quiet for a few minutes, processing this. I think I understand why you're not sad about the divorce. Yeah? You can't love someone who lies to you. Not really, because you don't know who they actually are. That's very wise, sweetheart. I learned it from watching you. Sunday morning brought another phone call from Jennifer. David, I need to get some more clothes from the house. Fine. What time? Is 10 o'clock okay? I'll be here. Jennifer arrived exactly at 10, driving Lisa's car instead of her own. She looked tired and older, like the stress was aging her in real time. Where are Jake and Emma? Jake's at the gym. Emma's at Sarah's house. They're avoiding me. Can you blame them? Jennifer went upstairs to pack more clothes while I waited in the kitchen. She was taking longer than necessary, probably hoping Jake or Emma would come home and give her a chance to talk to them. When she came back downstairs, she was carrying a photo album along with her suitcase. I took some family pictures. I hope that's okay. Take whatever photos you want. David, about Tuesday's hearing. What about it? My lawyer thinks we have a good chance of getting the prenup invalidated. Your lawyer is wrong. He says prenups can be overturned if the circumstances were unfair or if one party didn't fully understand the terms. Jennifer, you had your father's attorney review that prenup. You understood exactly what you were signing. I was young. I trusted you. You should have kept trusting me instead of sleeping with Tyler. Jennifer set down her suitcase and looked at me with something that might have been hope. David, what if I could prove that Tyler meant nothing to me, that it was just a physical thing, not emotional? How would that change anything? It would show that I never stopped loving you. Jennifer, you think the problem is that you love Tyler, isn't it? The problem is that you betrayed me, lied to me, and used our joint assets to fund your betrayal. Love doesn't enter into it. But if I could show you that it was just a mistake, a moment of weakness, it wasn't a moment, it was months. Jennifer picked up her suitcase again, the hope fading from her face. I'm going to fight this, David. I can't just accept being left with nothing. Then you'll lose publicly instead of privately. Your choice. After she left, I called Patricia Hoffman to discuss Tuesday's hearing. How strong is their case? I asked. Weak. The prenup was properly executed. Both parties had legal representation, and the terms aren't unconscionable. But judges sometimes feel sorry for cheating spouses who are about to lose everything. What's our strategy? We stick to the facts. The prenup is valid, the adultery is documented, and the financial misconduct is clear. We let Jennifer's lawyer make emotional arguments while we present legal evidence. What should I expect? Expect Jennifer to cry. Expect her lawyer to paint you as a cold, calculating businessman who took advantage of a naive young woman. Expect the judge to ask tough questions about the fairness of the agreement. And our response? Our response is that contracts matter, promises matter, and actions have consequences. Monday morning, I drove Jake to his final high school exam. He'd been accepted to Oregon State with a partial academic scholarship, planning to study business administration. "Dad, are you nervous about tomorrow's hearing?" "Not nervous, just ready to get it over with." "What happens if Mom wins?" "She won't win, but if she did, it would mean splitting our assets 50-50 instead of following the prenup terms." "That would be expensive. Very expensive." Jake was quiet for a moment. "Dad, I know this might sound cold, but I hope she loses." "Why?" "Because she needs to learn that actions have consequences. If you bail her out now, she'll never take responsibility for what she did." "When did you get so wise?" "I had a good teacher." That afternoon, Emma came home from school with news. "Dad, some of the other kids are talking about our family situation." "What are they saying?" "Mostly just gossip, but a few people made comments about Mom." "What kind of comments?" "The kind that made me want to punch them in the face." "Emma, you can't fight everyone who says something mean about our family." "I know, but it's hard to listen to." "What did you do?" "I told them that if they wanted to gossip about my family, they should at least get their facts straight." And I set the record straight. Mom cheated, you divorced her, and now we're all dealing with the consequences like adults." "How did they react?" "Most of them shut up. A few apologized. One girl said her parents went through something similar and it gets easier." "Does it feel easier?" Emma considered this. "It feels cleaner, like we're not pretending anymore." That evening, I prepared for Tuesday's hearing by reviewing all the documents with Patricia. The prenup was airtight, the evidence was overwhelming, and Jennifer's legal arguments were weak. But family court judges have broad discretion, and sometimes they make decisions based on emotion rather than law. "David, there's something else we need to discuss," Patricia said. "If we win tomorrow, Jennifer's going to be in serious financial trouble." "That's not my responsibility." "Legally, no, but morally, you might want to consider offering her some additional support." "Why would I do that?" "Because she's the mother of your children, and watching her struggle might be harder on Jake and Emma than you think." "Patricia, she made her choices. I'm not going to reward her for destroying our family." "I'm not asking you to reward her. I'm asking you to consider the long-term impact on your relationship with your children." "My children understand the situation. They know who's responsible for this mess. Today they do, but in 5 years, 10 years, they might look back and wonder if you could have been more generous." I thought about Patricia's words on the drive home. Jake and Emma were handling the divorce well now, but how would they feel about my decisions when they were older? When they had marriages and families of their own? Then I thought about the sound of my bedroom door closing, Jennifer's lies about studio expenses, and Tyler's car in my driveway. Some actions don't deserve generosity. Tuesday morning arrived gray and rainy, perfect weather for a divorce hearing. I put on my best suit and drove downtown to the courthouse, arriving early to review strategy with Patricia one final time. "Remember, stay calm no matter what Jennifer or her lawyer says. Let me do the talking unless the judge asks you a direct question." "What if she breaks down crying?" "She probably will. Don't react. Don't look sympathetic. Just sit there and let her lawyer deal with it." Jennifer arrived with her attorney, a middle-aged man named Robert Chen, who specialized in family law. She was wearing a conservative dress and minimal makeup, clearly trying to look like a victim rather than an adulteress. The hearing began with Jennifer's lawyer arguing that the prenup was unconscionable and should be invalidated. He painted Jennifer as a naive young woman who'd been manipulated by an older, more sophisticated businessman. "Your Honor, my client was 22 years old when she signed this agreement. She was in love and trusted her fiancé to treat her fairly. She had no way of knowing that 20 years later, he would use this document to leave her destitute." Patricia responded by presenting the evidence of Jennifer's adultery and financial misconduct. "Your Honor, Mrs. Mitchell had legal representation when she signed the prenup. She understood the terms and agreed to them voluntarily. The current situation exists because she chose to violate her marriage vows and misuse marital assets." The judge, a woman in her 50s named Sandra Walsh, reviewed the documents carefully before asking questions. "Mrs. Mitchell, did you understand the terms of the prenuptial agreement when you signed it?" Jennifer stood up, tears already flowing. "Your Honor, I understood the words, but I never imagined I would need to rely on them. I thought David and I would be married forever." "But you did have legal counsel review the agreement?" "Yes, but—" "And that attorney explained the potential consequences?" "Yes, but I was young and in love. I trusted David to take care of me." Judge Walsh turned to me. "Mr. Mitchell, do you believe the prenuptial agreement is fair given the length of your marriage and your wife's contributions to your household?" I stood up, choosing my words carefully. "Your Honor, I believe the agreement is fair given the circumstances that led to this divorce. My wife chose to violate our marriage contract. I don't believe she should benefit financially from that violation. Mr. Mitchell, your wife will receive spousal support for 2 years. Do you believe that's sufficient time for her to become self-supporting? Your Honor, my wife is a trained Pilates instructor and part owner of a fitness studio. She has marketable skills and existing income sources. Judge Walsh made notes and asked a few more questions before calling a recess. Patricia and I waited in the hallway while she deliberated. How do you think it went? I asked. Hard to tell. Judge Walsh is thorough and fair, but she's also sympathetic to women in difficult situations. Meaning? Meaning she might try to find a middle ground that gives Jennifer more than the prenup allows, but less than half the marital assets. Can she do that? Judges have broad discretion in family court. She could modify the spousal support amount or duration. When court reconvened, Judge Walsh delivered her ruling. After reviewing all the evidence and arguments, I find that the prenuptial agreement was properly executed and is legally binding. However, given the 20-year length of the marriage and Mrs. Mitchell's limited earning capacity, I'm modifying the spousal support terms. My heart sank. Jennifer was going to get more money. Mrs. Mitchell will receive spousal support for 3 years instead of 2, and the monthly amount will be increased by 25%. Additionally, Mr. Mitchell will be responsible for Mrs. Mitchell's health insurance for the duration of the support period. It wasn't as bad as it could have been, but it was more than the prenup required. Jennifer looked relieved, though not entirely satisfied. Furthermore, Judge Walsh continued, Mrs. Mitchell will have 90 days to remove her personal belongings from the marital home. After that time, Mr. Mitchell may dispose of any remaining items as he sees fit. Your Honor, Jennifer's lawyer interjected, my client needs more time to find suitable housing. Mr. Chen, your client had ample time to consider her housing situation before engaging in extramarital relations. 90 days is generous. After the hearing, Patricia and I discussed the outcome. It could have been worse, she said. The additional spousal support will cost you about $15,000 over the 3-year period. I can live with that. David, there's one more thing. Jennifer's business loan that you co-signed? If the studio fails, you're still liable for the remaining balance. How much? About $40,000. Can we get my name removed from the loan? Not without Jennifer's consent or full payment of the balance. I drove home feeling like I'd won the battle, but might still lose the war. Jennifer had limited options for income, and if her studio failed, I'd be responsible for a significant debt. Jake and Emma were waiting when I got home. How did it go? Jake asked. We won, mostly. Your mother gets a little more spousal support than the prenup specified, but the basic agreement stands. So she doesn't get half of everything? No. She gets what she earned, plus support for 3 years. Emma looked thoughtful. Is that enough for her to live on? It should be, if she's careful with money. But she's never been careful with money. That's not my problem anymore. That evening, Jennifer called to thank me for not fighting the judge's modifications. David, I know you could have appealed the spousal support increase. There was no point. The amount is reasonable. I want you to know that I'm going to use this time to rebuild my life properly. I hope so, for Jake and Emma's sake. Do you think they'll ever forgive me? That's up to them. Could you maybe encourage them to give me a chance? Jennifer, I'm not going to pressure our children to have a relationship with you. If you want their forgiveness, you'll have to earn it. How do I do that? Start by taking responsibility for your actions instead of making excuses. I have taken responsibility. No, you've admitted what you did. Taking responsibility means accepting the consequences without complaint. Jennifer was quiet for a moment. David, do you think you'll ever be able to forgive me? I don't know. Right now I'm focused on moving forward. I understand. I just want you to know that I never stopped loving you. If that's true, then you have a very strange way of showing love. After hanging up, I found Jake and Emma in the living room, supposedly doing homework, but clearly eavesdropping on my conversation. Was that Mom? Emma asked. Yes. What did she want? To thank me for not appealing the judge's decision? Are you going to appeal it? No. The extra money isn't worth the additional legal fees and stress. Jake looked up from his textbook. Dad, do you think Mom's business is going to fail? Why do you ask? Because if it fails, you're still responsible for the loan, right? Probably. That seems unfair. A lot of things about this situation are unfair. Emma closed her laptop and looked at me seriously. Dad, what if Mom can't make it on her own? What if she ends up homeless or something? Emma, your mother is an educated adult with job skills and 3 years of financial support. She'll figure it out. But what if she doesn't? Then she'll face the consequences of her choices. Would you help her if she was really desperate? I thought about Emma's question. Would I help Jennifer if she was truly destitute? Would I let the mother of my children become homeless to prove a point? I hope it never comes to that, I said finally. But if it did, then I'd make sure you and Jake didn't have to watch your mother suffer, even if she brought it on herself. Emma nodded, satisfied with my answer. Jake went back to his homework. I sat there thinking about the complicated nature of love, hate, and responsibility. Jennifer had betrayed me in the worst possible way, but she was still the woman who'd given birth to my children and shared 20 years of my life. I didn't love her anymore, but I didn't hate her either. I just wanted her to disappear and let us rebuild our lives in peace. Unfortunately, divorce doesn't work that way. Jennifer would be part of our lives forever, whether I liked it or not. The challenge was figuring out how to manage that relationship without letting her destroy what we were building. Over the next few weeks, we settled into new routines. Jake prepared for college, Emma focused on her junior year plans, and I threw myself into work. Jennifer moved into a small apartment across town and tried to rebuild her client base at the studio. Tyler, meanwhile, had apparently left town entirely. His social media accounts went dark, and none of his former clients knew where he'd gone. 22-year-old fitness coaches, it turned out, were highly portable. I was working in the garage one evening when Emma came to find me. "Dad, I've been thinking about something." "What's that?" "I want to understand why Mom did what she did." "Emma, some things don't have good explanations." "I know, but I keep trying to figure out how someone can throw away 20 years of marriage for a guy they barely knew." I set down my wrench and looked at my daughter. At 16, she was trying to make sense of adult behavior that probably seemed completely irrational. "Emma, people sometimes make decisions based on how they feel in the moment, rather than what makes sense long term. But Mom's not stupid. She had to know this would end badly. I think your mother convinced herself that she could have both lives, the security of our marriage and the excitement of her affair. That's incredibly selfish." "Yes, it is." Emma was quiet for a moment, processing this. "Dad, are you worried that I'll make the same kinds of mistakes?" "No, sweetheart. You're too honest for that." "How do you know?" "Because when you're upset or confused, you talk about it. You don't sneak around and lie." "What if I change as I get older?" "Then I'll trust that I raised you with enough integrity to make good choices, even when they're difficult." Emma smiled and hugged me. "I love you, Dad." "I love you too, sweetheart." As summer arrived, our new normal began to feel actually normal. Jake worked at a local restaurant to earn college spending money. Emma spent time with friends and took a lifeguarding course at the community center. I focused on growing my business and finishing the Mustang restoration. Jennifer called occasionally to check on the kids, but the conversations were brief and awkward. She was struggling financially, despite the spousal support, and her relationship with Jake and Emma remained strained. One evening in July, she called with news. "David, I need to tell you something. The studio is closing." "What happened?" "We lost too many clients after everything that happened. Lisa and I can't make the lease payments." "When?" "End of the month." "What about the loan?" "That's what I need to talk to you about. The equipment sale won't cover the full balance." "How much will I owe?" "About $25,000. I closed my eyes and counted to 10. "Jennifer, you understand that this means I'm paying for your affair twice? Once in spousal support and once in business debt. David, I'm sorry. I never wanted this to happen." "But it did happen, because you made choices that destroyed your business relationships along with our marriage." "I know. I'll try to help with the payments." "With what money?" Jennifer didn't have an answer for that. The next morning, I called Patricia to discuss my options. "Can I get out of the loan obligation?" "Not unless you pay it off completely or Jennifer files for bankruptcy." "What happens if she files for bankruptcy?" "Then you're still responsible for the loan, but her other debts would be discharged. So either way, I pay. Either way, you pay." I hung up feeling like Jennifer was going to cost me money for the rest of her life. Even divorced, even living separately, her poor decisions continued to affect my financial security. That evening, I sat Jake and Emma down to explain the situation. "Your mother's business is failing, which means I'm responsible for about $25,000 in loan debt." "That's not fair," Emma said immediately. "No, it's not fair, but it's legal." "Can you afford it?" Jake asked. "Yes, but it means tightening our budget for a while." "Will it affect my college plans?" "No, Jake. Your college fund is separate and protected." Emma looked angry. "So Mom gets to mess up her business and you have to pay for it?" "That's how co-signing loans works, unfortunately." "Dad, you're being too nice about this." "Emma, being angry won't change the situation." "Maybe not, but it might make you feel better." Actually, I was angrier than I let on. Jennifer's affair had already cost me my marriage, my family's stability, and thousands of dollars in legal fees. Now it was costing me an additional $25,000 in business debt. But anger wouldn't solve the problem, and I didn't want Jake and Emma to see me lose control. That weekend, Jennifer came by to collect more of her belongings. She looked tired and defeated, older than her 38 years. David, I want to apologize again about the studio loan. Apologizing doesn't change anything. I know, but I want you to understand that I never intended for any of this to happen. Jennifer, you intended to sleep with Tyler. Everything else followed from that decision. I was going through a difficult time. I felt invisible, unappreciated. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it. I tried to talk to you. You were always working. I was working to support our family, including your studio investment. Jennifer sat down at the kitchen table, looking defeated. David, I've lost everything. My marriage, my business, my friends. Most of the women I knew through the studio won't even speak to me now. What did you expect? That they'd congratulate you for sleeping with a 22-year-old? I expected some understanding, some compassion. You got compassion? From me? For 20 years. Until you decided Tyler was more interesting. Jennifer started crying, but I felt no sympathy for her tears. David, is there any chance we could try counseling? See if we can rebuild what we had? We can't rebuild trust that's been completely destroyed. But people do it. Couples recover from affairs all the time. Some couples do. We're not going to be one of them. Why not? Because I don't want to. Jennifer stared at me like I'd slapped her. You don't want to? No, I don't want to spend the next 10 years wondering if you're lying to me again. I don't want to check your phone or follow you to work or worry about every late meeting. I don't want to live with that kind of suspicion. You wouldn't have to. I would never do this again. You said you would never do it the first time. Jennifer gathered her remaining belongings and loaded them into her car. Before leaving, she knocked on Emma's door to say goodbye. I love you, sweetheart. I hope someday you can forgive me. Emma's response was muffled, but I heard her say, I love you too, Mom, but I can't forgive you yet. After Jennifer left, Emma came downstairs looking upset. Dad, this is really hard. I know, sweetheart. I'm mad at her, but I also feel sorry for her. That's normal. You can feel both things at the same time. Will it always be this complicated? Probably, but it will get easier. How do you know? Because right now, everything is fresh and raw. Time doesn't heal everything, but it does make things hurt less. Emma nodded and went back to her room. I sat in the kitchen, thinking about the conversation with Jennifer. She genuinely seemed to believe that we could rebuild our marriage, that her affair was just a temporary mistake that could be forgiven and forgotten. She didn't understand that some betrayals are permanent. Some trust, once broken, can't be repaired. I didn't hate Jennifer, but I didn't love her anymore either. She'd become a stranger who happened to share my history and my children, and that was probably the saddest part of the whole situation. August brought an unexpected phone call from Tyler's mother. Mr. Mitchell, this is Carol Williams, Tyler's mother. I nearly hung up, but curiosity got the better of me. What can I do for you, Mrs. Williams? I wanted to apologize for my son's behavior. I just found out about what happened with your wife. How did you find out? Tyler came home to live with us. He's been drinking heavily and finally told us the whole story. I see. Mr. Mitchell, I raised Tyler better than this. I don't know what got into him, but what he did was wrong. Mrs. Williams, I appreciate the call, but your son's behavior is between him and his conscience. I know, but I also wanted you to know that he's suffering too. He lost his business, his apartment, his girlfriend. He's completely broken. That's unfortunate. Mr. Mitchell, I'm not asking you to forgive him. I'm just asking you to know that he understands the damage he caused. After hanging up, I wondered why Tyler's mother had really called. Was she hoping I'd somehow help her son rebuild his life? Did she think knowing about his suffering would make me feel better? It didn't make me feel better. It didn't make me feel anything at all. That evening, I mentioned the call to Jake and Emma. Tyler's mom called to apologize for his behavior. That's weird, Emma said. Why would she call you? I think she feels guilty about what her son did. She should feel guilty, Jake said. She raised him. Jake, people make their own choices. Tyler's mother isn't responsible for his affair with your mother. Maybe not directly, but parents influence how their kids think about right and wrong. I thought about Jake's comment. Was I somehow responsible for Jennifer's choices because of how I'd treated her during our marriage? Had I been too focused on work, too emotionally distant, too something? Then I remembered the sound of my bedroom door closing and decided that nothing I'd done justified what Jennifer and Tyler had done. September arrived with Jake's departure for college. We loaded his belongings into my truck and drove to Oregon State University, 2 hours south of our home. "You nervous?" I asked as we carried boxes to his dormitory room. "A little. Excited too." "Call if you need anything, money, advice, or just someone to talk to." "I will, Dad. Thanks for everything." Jake's roommate was a kid from California whose parents had also driven up for move-in day. The four of us made small talk while the boys organized their room. "Are you married?" the other father asked. "Divorced," I replied simply. "Recently? This spring?" "I'm sorry to hear that. Divorce is tough on kids. Jake's handling it well." "What about your other children?" "Emma's a junior in high school. She's staying with me." The conversation moved to safer topics like majors and career plans. I was grateful not to explain the details of my divorce to a stranger. After helping Jake get settled, I drove home feeling proud of my son, but also sad that this chapter of our lives was ending. Jake had handled the divorce with remarkable maturity, but I knew it had affected him more than he let on. Emma was waiting when I got home, looking lonely in the suddenly quiet house. "How's Jake?" "Good. Excited about classes starting. I miss him already." "Me too." Emma and I spent the evening watching movies and eating pizza, establishing new routines for our smaller household. It felt strange to have just the two of us rattling around in a house that had been built for a family of 4. "Dad, do you ever get lonely?" "Sometimes, do you?" "Yeah, especially when I think about how things used to be." "Emma, would you rather have the old version of our family with all the lies and tension?" "No, but I wish we could have the old version without the lies." "So do I, sweetheart. So do I." The following week, Jennifer called with more bad news. "David, I can't make my rent this month." "What happened to your spousal support?" "I had to pay some outstanding bills from the studio, medical bills, utility deposits for the apartment, car repairs." "Jennifer, if you can't manage your finances on the support I'm providing, that's not my problem. I'm not asking you to pay my rent. I'm asking if Emma can stay with me for a few weeks while I figure things out." "Why would Emma staying with you help your financial situation?" "Because then I could apply for additional assistance programs. Single mothers get priority for certain types of aid." I was quiet for a long moment, processing what Jennifer had just said. "You want to use our daughter as a prop to qualify for welfare?" "David, that's not how I meant it." "That's exactly how you meant it. I'm desperate. I don't know what else to do." "Get a job, get a second job, move to a cheaper apartment, do what every other divorced woman does when she needs to support herself." "I am working. The Pilates classes I teach barely pay anything." "Then teach more classes, or find a different job." "David, please. I'm asking for help." "You're asking me to enable your poor financial planning." "I'm asking you to care about what happens to me." "I care about what happens to Emma. I care about what happens to Jake. What happens to you is your responsibility." Jennifer hung up without saying goodbye. An hour later, Emma came home from school looking upset. "Mom called me." "What did she say?" "That she might have to move back in with Grandma and Grandpa because she can't afford her apartment." "What did you tell her?" "That maybe she should get a better job." "How did she react to that?" "She started crying and said I didn't understand how hard it is for her right now." Emma sat down at the kitchen table, looking frustrated. "Dad, I do understand how hard it is, but she's the one who made it hard." "What else did she say?" "She asked if I would consider living with her for a while to help her qualify for assistance programs." "What did you tell her?" "I told her that using me to get welfare money was probably illegal and definitely wrong." I felt proud of Emma for seeing through Jennifer's manipulation, but also sad that she had to deal with this kind of pressure from her own mother. "Emma, if you ever want to spend time with your mother, that's your choice, but you're not responsible for solving her financial problems." "I know, but it's hard to watch her struggle. Your mother isn't struggling because of circumstances beyond her control. She's struggling because she made choices that had predictable consequences." "I know that too, but she's still my mom." That evening, Jennifer's father called me. "David, Jennifer told us about her financial situation." "What about it?" "She's asked to move back home temporarily." "That's between you and Jennifer." "We wanted to check with you first, make sure there weren't any legal issues with the divorce agreement." "There aren't any legal issues. Jennifer can live wherever she wants." "David, can I ask you something man to man?" "Sure." "Do you think we're enabling her by letting her move home?" The question surprised me. Jennifer's father was a successful businessman who'd always been protective of his daughter. I hadn't expected him to question whether helping her was the right thing to do. That's not for me to say. But what's your opinion? I thought carefully before answering. I think Jennifer needs to experience the full consequences of her choices if she's ever going to learn from them. You think we should let her become homeless? I think you should help her find a job and a cheaper apartment, not provide free housing that lets her avoid responsibility. Jennifer's father was quiet for a moment. David, I have to ask, is there any chance you two could work things out? For the sake of the family? No. You sound very certain. I am very certain. Can I ask why? I mean, people do recover from affairs. Some people do. But recovery requires trust, and I don't trust Jennifer anymore. Could you learn to trust her again? I don't want to learn to trust her again. I want to move on with my life. After hanging up, I realized that Jennifer's family was probably going through their own version of grief over our divorce. They'd lost a son-in-law and gained a daughter whose poor choices had destroyed her life. A few days later, Emma came home with news. Mom's moving back in with Grandma and Grandpa. How do you feel about that? Relieved, I guess. At least I don't have to worry about her being homeless. But also embarrassed. She's 38 years old and moving back into her childhood bedroom because she can't support herself. Emma, your mother's living situation isn't a reflection on you. It feels like it is. When people ask about her, what am I supposed to say? You tell them she's figuring out her next steps. That's a nice way of saying she's a mess. Yes, it is. Emma smiled despite herself. Dad, you're getting better at diplomacy. I'm getting better at a lot of things. October brought Jake's first visit home from college. He looked happy and confident, clearly thriving in his new environment. How are classes? I asked over dinner. Good. Challenging, but good. I really like my business law professor. Any thoughts about what you want to specialize in? Maybe corporate law, or maybe entrepreneurship. I want to understand how businesses work from both the legal and practical sides. That's smart. Having multiple perspectives makes you more valuable. Emma looked at Jake across the dinner table. Do you miss being here? I miss you and Dad, but I don't miss the drama. There hasn't been much drama lately. Mom's living with Grandma and Grandpa, and we hardly hear from her. How is Mom? Jake asked me. I assume she's fine. We don't talk unless there's a specific reason. Do you think she's learned anything from all this? I hope so, but I'm not sure. What would it look like if she had learned something? I thought about Jake's question. She'd take responsibility for her choices without making excuses. She'd focus on building a sustainable life instead of looking for people to rescue her, and she'd respect the boundaries of our divorce instead of trying to manipulate her way back into our lives. Has she done any of those things? Not yet. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Dad, can I tell you something? Always. I'm proud of how you handled everything. The divorce, the business loan, dealing with Mom's financial problems. You stayed calm and fair even when she didn't deserve it. Thank you, son. That means a lot. I want to handle problems the way you did when I'm older, with dignity and logic instead of emotion. Emotion isn't always bad, Jake. Sometimes it motivates you to do the right thing. But it shouldn't control your decisions. No, it shouldn't. Emma looked between us. Are we going to talk about Mom like she's gone forever for the rest of our lives? Jake and I both laughed. Emma, your mother isn't gone. She's just no longer part of our everyday lives, I said. But she's still our mother. Doesn't that count for something? Of course it does. When you're ready to have a relationship with her, I'll support that decision. What if I'm never ready? Then that's your choice too. What about you, Dad? Will you ever be ready to have some kind of relationship with her? I don't know. Right now, I'm focused on moving forward. But you can't move forward forever without dealing with the past. Emma was wise beyond her years, and her observation hit closer to home than I wanted to admit. I had been avoiding any real emotional processing of the divorce, focusing instead on practical matters and immediate concerns. You're right, Emma. At some point, I'll need to figure out what kind of relationship, if any, I want to have with your mother. But not yet? Not yet? Jake's visit home was brief, but good for all of us. Having the family together, even without Jennifer, felt normal and comfortable. We fell back into old routines of cooking together, watching movies, and talking about everything and nothing. When Jake returned to college, Emma and I settled back into our quiet household routines. She was doing well in school, had good friends, and seemed to be adjusting to our new family structure, but I could tell she was still processing the divorce and its aftermath. One evening in November, she asked a question that caught me off guard. "Dad, do you think you'll ever get married again?" "I haven't thought about it." "But if you met someone you really liked?" "Emma, I'm not even divorced a year yet. Marriage is the furthest thing from my mind." "But eventually?" "Maybe." "Why do you ask?" "Because I want you to be happy." "I am happy." "You're content. That's different from happy." "What's the difference?" "Happy people smile more. They laugh at stupid things. They get excited about stuff." Emma was right. I was content with our life, but I wasn't particularly happy. I was going through the motions of living without much joy or enthusiasm. "Emma, happiness takes time after something like divorce." "How much time?" "I don't know. However long it takes." "What if it takes forever?" "Then I guess I'll be content forever." "That's not good enough." "Why not?" "Because Jake and I won't be here forever. We're going to grow up and move out and have our own lives. If you don't figure out how to be happy, you'll be alone and miserable." "Emma, I won't be miserable." "How do you know?" I didn't have a good answer for that question. December brought the first Christmas since the divorce. Jake came home from college, and we had to navigate holiday traditions without Jennifer for the first time in 20 years. "Are we going to see Mom at all during the holidays?" Emma asked. "That's up to you and Jake." "What do you think we should do?" "I think you should do whatever feels right to you." Jake and Emma decided to visit Jennifer at her parents' house on Christmas Eve, then spend Christmas Day with me. It seemed like a reasonable compromise that acknowledged their relationship with their mother while respecting the reality of our divorce. Christmas Eve was quiet without the kids. I worked on the Mustang, watched old movies, and went to bed early. It wasn't lonely exactly, but it was definitely different. Christmas morning felt more normal. Jake and Emma opened presents, we cooked breakfast together, and we called my parents in Oregon. It was smaller and quieter than previous Christmases, but it was also more peaceful. "How was your visit with Mom?" I asked over breakfast. "Sad," Emma said immediately. "Why sad?" "She's living in her old bedroom with posters from high school still on the walls. She looks like she's given up on everything." "What did you talk about?" "She asked a lot of questions about you," Jake said. "Whether you're dating, how the business is going, if you ever mention her." "What did you tell her?" "The truth, that you're focused on work and taking care of Emma, and that you don't really talk about her." "How did she react?" "She cried." I felt a pang of something that might have been sympathy. Jennifer was clearly struggling with the consequences of her choices, and while I didn't regret divorcing her, I didn't take pleasure in her suffering either. "Did she ask about getting back together?" "Not directly," Emma said, but she made a lot of comments about how much she missed our family and how she wished things could be different. "What did you tell her?" "That things could have been different if she'd made different choices." "How did she respond to that?" "She said she knew she'd made mistakes, but that she hoped someday we could all forgive her and move on." "And?" "And I told her that forgiveness doesn't mean going back to the way things were." I felt proud of Emma for understanding that distinction. Forgiveness and reconciliation are two different things, and many people confuse them. "Do you think you'll forgive her eventually?" I asked. "Probably, but I don't think I'll ever trust her the same way again." "That's very mature, Emma. I learned it from watching you." The rest of Christmas Day was peaceful and pleasant. We played board games, watched football, and cooked a dinner that was too large for 3 people, but felt appropriately festive. That evening, as Jake and Emma were getting ready for bed, Emma knocked on my door. "Dad, can I ask you something personal?" "Sure." "Do you miss being married?" "I miss some things about being married. I miss having a partner to share daily life with. I miss having someone to talk to about parenting decisions. I miss the companionship." "But you don't miss Mom specifically?" "I miss the person I thought your mother was. I don't miss the person she actually turned out to be." "That's really sad." "Yes, it is." "Dad, I hope someday you find someone who's actually the person you think they are." "Thank you, sweetheart. That's a very nice thing to hope for." As 2023 ended and 2024 began, I reflected on the year that had changed everything. 12 months earlier, I'd been a married man with what I thought was a stable family. Now I was divorced, Jake was in college, Emma was becoming increasingly independent, and I was learning to live alone for the first time in 20 years. It hadn't been the year I'd planned, but it had been the year I'd needed. Sometimes life forces you to confront truths you've been avoiding, and sometimes those truths set you free even as they tear apart everything you thought you wanted. Jennifer had given me an unexpected gift when she started her affair with Tyler. She'd shown me who she really was, and she'd forced me to decide who I wanted to be in response. I'd chosen to be honest, direct, and fair. I'd chosen to protect my children while holding their mother accountable for her choices. I'd chosen dignity over drama, logic over emotion, and truth over comfortable lies. Those choices had cost me a marriage, but they'd given me back my self-respect. As I sat in my garage on New Year's Eve, putting the finishing touches on the Mustang's restoration, I realized that I was also finishing the restoration of myself. The man who'd discovered his wife's affair in this same garage 11 months ago had been broken, betrayed, and lost. The man working on this car tonight was whole, honest, and free. The Mustang's engine turned over on the first try, purring with the smooth confidence of a machine that had been rebuilt properly. I sat in the driver's seat, listening to the engine idle, and smiled for the first time in months. Emma appeared in the garage doorway. "Dad, it's almost midnight. Want to watch the ball drop?" "Sure, sweetheart." I turned off the engine and followed Emma into the house. We watched the countdown together, and when the clock struck 12, we hugged and wished each other a happy new year. "This is going to be a good year," Emma said confidently. "How do you know?" "Because we're starting it with the truth instead of lies." That's a pretty good foundation. The best foundation. As I went to bed that night, I thought about Emma's words. We were starting the new year with truth instead of lies, with honesty instead of deception, with reality instead of fantasy. It wasn't the life I'd planned, but it was the life I'd chosen. And for the first time since discovering Jennifer's affair, that felt like enough. The truth, as I'd learned, really will set you free, even when it costs you everything else in the process.